It was the summer after my first year of college. I was subletting a cheap apartment near campus while working a part-time job. The unit was bare bones. One bedroom, no AC, single-pane windows with thin curtains. Most nights were quiet. That night, I got home late and microwaved some leftover pasta. My phone had died at work, so I plugged it in and sat on the couch in the dark, eating. The only light came from a street lamp outside, bleeding in through the curtains. The room felt stale and humid. I was halfway through my bowl when I saw it, the silhouette of a person standing just outside the living room window, still, facing in. I froze mid-bite. At first I thought it might be my reflection, but the shape didn't move when I did. I stood up slowly and took one step closer. The figure didn't flinch, just stood there, barely illuminated behind the curtain. I didn't have the guts to pull it back. I backed into the bedroom and shut the door. There was no lock, so I shoved a chair under the knob and sat on the bed with a kitchen knife. I waited, phone charging on the other side of the wall. After maybe 20 minutes, I worked up the nerve to peek through the door. The silhouette was gone. I grabbed my phone, which had barely 6% battery, and called a friend who lived a few blocks away. He picked up, and I asked him to come over. I didn't tell him why. He said he'd be there in 10 minutes. I waited by the peephole, watching the hallway. When he finally knocked, I let him in fast. I asked if he'd seen anyone outside. He said no, just the usual sidewalk traffic. I told him what I saw. He didn't laugh, just stared at the curtain. We pulled it back together. No one was there. Just a smudge on the glass that looked like a face had been pressed against it. We stayed up until dawn, not saying much. He fell asleep on the floor. I barely blinked. That morning, when I finally opened the front door to let in air, I saw something drawn into the condensation on the outside of the glass. A circle with an X through it. It hadn't been there the night before. I moved out 2 weeks early. Told the landlord I got a job in another city. He didn't ask questions. I still think about that shape. The way it didn't move. The smudge. That mark in the glass. I keep wondering if it was watching longer than I knew. This happened 2 winters ago, just after Christmas. I was staying at my aunt's house in Vermont. It was the kind of old farmhouse with thin walls and creaky floors, the kind where sound travels even if you whisper. She lived alone, and I had flown in to help her recover from surgery. The first few nights were uneventful, quiet, peaceful. The guest room I slept in was at the far end of the upstairs hallway. It had an old bed, a wooden dresser, and a closet that didn't close all the way. On the second night, I stayed up late reading. The house was silent except for the wind. Around 2 a.m., I heard footsteps, slow, measured, creaking boards. They sounded like they were coming from the hallway, but stopped right outside my door. I didn't move. I thought maybe my aunt had gotten up to use the bathroom. I waited, expecting a knock or the sound of her door opening, but nothing happened. Just silence. I got up and opened the door. The hallway was empty. Her bedroom door was closed. No lights were on. I went back inside and shut the door quietly. The next morning, I asked her if she'd been up late. She said no, slept through the whole night. I brushed it off. Maybe the house settling. Maybe wind shifting something in the attic. But the next night, it happened again. Just past 2 a.m., footsteps, same pace, same weight, slow, intentional. They stopped outside my door. This time, I didn't get up. I just stared at the bottom of the door. There was a faint shadow there, like someone was standing in front of it. Not moving, not pacing, just standing. I whispered, "Aunt Beth?" but got no answer. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I waited until sunrise, then opened the door. Hallway empty. By the fourth night, I was tense before bed. I left a light on. My aunt had gone to bed early. I sat up, watching the hallway through a crack in the door. At 2:11 a.m., like clockwork, I heard it again. The creaking floor. Footsteps, coming closer. I held my breath. The shadow returned. But this time I heard something else. Breathing, shallow, raspy, just outside the door. The handle turned slightly, like someone was testing it. It didn't rattle, just twitched, then stopped. I didn't move, didn't make a sound. My phone was across the room, charging. I sat there in silence, too afraid to look through the crack again. The shadow stayed for what felt like hours. At sunrise, I finally opened the door. Still nothing. I checked every room, all doors and windows locked. Aunt Beth didn't hear a thing. I didn't tell her. That afternoon, I asked if anything weird had ever happened in the house. She gave me a look. The kind of look people give when they've seen something they'll never explain. She just said, "Sometimes this house remembers things." I booked an early flight the next morning. That night I slept with the door locked and a chair against it. I kept the lamp on. I didn't hear the footsteps again. But around 3 a.m., I woke up suddenly. Not from sound, from the cold. The room had gone freezing, like the heat had shut off. I sat up, teeth chattering. That's when I noticed the closet door. It was open wider than before. I stared at it, heart pounding. Then something shifted inside. Not loud, just a subtle movement. Enough to know someone, or something, was in there. I didn't wait. I grabbed my bag and left the room, slept in the car until morning. I told my aunt goodbye and didn't mention anything. She didn't ask why I left early. I haven't been back since. Every now and then, I still dream of that door. The shadow outside it, the sound of slow breathing through thin wood. I don't know what it was, but I know I wasn't alone in that room. Not after dark. It was last September. I had just moved to a new apartment in a smaller town outside Pittsburgh. The place was cheap, but it didn't come with much storage. So I rented a unit at a facility about 10 minutes away. Nothing fancy, chain link fence, keypad gate, single row of units, no cameras. The kind of place you drive past without noticing. I didn't think much of it at the time. The unit was near the back, right next to a concrete wall. I went there a few times a week, usually after work, to drop off boxes or dig through old furniture. It was always quiet. No other cars, no staff on site. Just the hum of the nearby highway. The first time I noticed something off, it was small. My padlock had been rotated, not opened, just turned upside down. I figured it was the wind. 2 nights later, I came back with more boxes. It was already dark, and the overhead lights in the lot weren't working. I parked close and used my phone flashlight to find the key. As I unlocked the unit, I heard something, like fabric brushing concrete. It came from the other side of the wall. I paused, shined my light over. No one. I opened the door and went inside. The light inside the unit was dim and flickery. I stacked the boxes, closed the door, and locked it. But before I left, I got this weird feeling, like someone was behind me. I turned fast. Nothing there. I laughed at myself and drove home. The next day, I found dirt smeared across the back of my car, like a handprint. Just one. A week passed. I didn't go back. But on Sunday, I realized I left my old hard drive in one of the boxes, so I drove out just after sunset. This time, there was another car parked near the front. Old sedan, no plates. I walked past it, trying not to look inside. When I got to my unit, my stomach dropped. The door was cracked open. The lock was missing. I stood there, just staring at it. I didn't want to go inside, but the drive was important. I pushed the door up slowly. The light flickered on. Nothing looked moved. I stepped in and scanned the shelves. That's when I heard it, a faint cough, from inside the unit. I backed up toward the door, stopped, listened. Another cough, closer. I turned and slammed the door shut, locking it from the outside. I ran to my car, got in, and drove home. I didn't report it. I told myself it was just an echo, maybe someone on the other side of the wall, but the next day, I got a call from the facility manager. He said my lock had been found in the bushes and asked if I wanted to file a report. I said no. 2 weeks later, I got a new lock and returned to empty the unit. I brought a friend. We opened the door. Inside, everything looked the same, until I pulled a box off the shelf and found something new. A blanket, rolled up tight. I hadn't stored that. Under it was a half-empty water bottle and a used sock. Someone had been sleeping in there. We left everything, told the manager we were done. I never went back. I changed my phone number, started keeping a bat in my trunk. That storage facility got shut down a few months later. Not because of me, but because someone else found a man living in one of the units. He'd made a bed out of insulation foam and stolen blankets. They said he'd been there for weeks, maybe longer, slipping in and out at night, picking locks, hiding whenever someone came by. The police arrested him, but I never saw a mugshot, never got a name. All I know is the unit next to mine was empty. No belongings, no lock, just an open space against a cold concrete wall. I keep wondering how many times I stood in there, listening to that flickering light buzz overhead, while someone stood silently on the other side, watching, waiting, breathing just quietly enough not to be heard. I don't rent storage units anymore. I'd rather throw everything out than ever open another one alone.